Hello, everyone. This is Joelle, and I'm here today with Lauren to talk about empowering women to have the birth they choose, the birth they want from their heart. So I'm Joelle. I'm the creator of From Pregnancy to Ecstasy, and I am a movement educator and I do movement in the water also. And my passion is to bring the new souls to the world uh, in the best possible way with the best support. And Lauren is one of those amazing women, mothers, pregnant for the third
Yes.
time.
Yes.
So I would like you to tell a little bit your story and your experience with the first one, the second one, and now how you're preparing for the third one at home. Very exciting.
All right. Yeah. So I am pregnant with my third. I have two older children, 4 and 2 years old. Um, Two completely different birth experiences. Um, the first, with my son Colin, was a planned home birth. Um, that ended up in a hospital birth. So I went a week past my due date and went in to get my fetal anatomy scan, and turned out I had low fluid. And so I was admitted and induced that evening. A very, at first, scary experience, because in my mind, I was going to be having this beautiful, sacred home birth, and it ended up with beeping machines and nurses coming in, and just nothing that I had ever pictured in my mind. But I was very lucky to have a super supportive doula. Her name is Christy, and she really helped me and my husband Derek through the whole hospital process. So I was induced. My body was not ready to give birth. I wasn't even a centimeter dilated. And we had just interventions done. There, I don't think I didn't mention, I was actually lucky enough to be part of the midwifery section of the hospital. So they had a very natural approach, which is what we preferred. So that was very supportive for us. So we had a very slow induction, and it lasted probably about 18 or 19 hours, which was okay because it was supposed to be slow, getting my body ready to go into labor. And once we were at that point where my body was expanded and ready, I was put on pitocin to start the contractions because I hadn't naturally started them on my own. The pitocin really, it was challenging. I had some pretty strong unbearable contractions. And I really, just feeling into it, I really felt powerless in that moment. But again, I had a super supportive doula and midwives there that really respected my choice. And so we asked to turn the pitocin off because it was too much for me to handle without an epidural or any other medication. So we turned the pitocin off, and I labored out on my own. And we had a birth tub in the room that I was in. I labored in the water the entire time after the pitocin was off. It was a beautiful experience. Unfortunately, at the hospital, there was a rule that you couldn't give birth in the water. So at the time, during transition, I was moved from the tub to the bed. I birthed on the bed. But it was, again, not the experience we planned for, but it was absolutely, looking back, it was a beautiful, beautiful experience. And it really empowered me as a woman, because I was able to speak up for what I wanted, and I was able to have essentially the birth that I wanted without being at home. So that was the first experience.
And the doula also, sorry to interrupt, the doula also helped your husband a lot, right?
Yes. So my husband was a huge, huge supporter and played a massive role in the success of a natural unmedicated birth at the hospital. He was probably the best support system that I had. And then our doula, Christy, kind of more so. I think she was really there for him. That was the first birth. He had no idea what to expect, what birth looked like. And she really guided him on how to support me. So that was a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So inside.
Thinking back, I get a little, I didn't know I still had all that emotion around it, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you got in touch so deeply.
Yeah. And then second birth, if you want me to go into that.
Yes, please.
All right. So second birth was my girl, Madeline. That was they're 19 months apart. So birth was still pretty fresh in my mind. This time we had been living with another child, which we were new parents. And so this time around, we chose to do a birth center birth. We knew that we had this birth, it's called the Birth Center of St. Pete. And we knew that the birth center would be prepared and ready for us. We had a young little toddler running around and a dog at home. And we just didn't feel like this time around, we're like, home is a little too overwhelming. So we chose to do the birth center route. Come time again for delivery, this time I was 2 weeks late. So that was probably the longest wait. Those 2 weeks felt like about a month or two. But I had super supportive midwife at the birth center of St. Pete, and she worked with me. At 41 weeks, I went for my, I believe it's called like a post screening for that fetal ultrasound. Everything was good. And so I got to just keep being pregnant. And 42 weeks. 2 more weeks later, I started to have contractions with a little bit of help from some natural herbs. I took some, towards the end, I got clearance from my midwife. I had started, I think I was about 1 centimeter dilated and like 60% effaced. And so she said, your body's moving, it's doing things, it's on the right track. And so she felt comfortable with guiding me to use, I think it's called black cohosh.
Yes.
I took that in the dropper in the liquid form. And then I also took some castor oil, which is the absolute last resort, because it's just, drinking straight oil is not the most fun thing in the world. So I I did that with the blessing of my midwife. And the night, the day before I took it, and then that night, I started having contractions. They were pretty consistent, like 2 to 3 minutes apart. I didn't feel that they were as strong as they were, because in my experience, I had pitocin to start my contractions, which were way, now that I know, are way stronger than natural contractions. So I was expecting pitocin-like contractions, and these contractions were very mild compared to that. So I was just like all night, I'm like letting my husband sleep. I'm like, you're okay. Like, I'm okay. And then I get on the birth ball and I'm like, okay, they're 2 minutes apart. It's been a couple hours and they're still 2 minutes apart. And so I go and wake him up, and we call our doula again. We had Christy again for our second birth. Called her. She came over. We went for a walk. Things were progressing. And it was around probably 6 a.m., 6 or 7 a.m. And my son woke up, and I turned into mom, and my contractions stopped. Which I've learned now that that's completely normal. And when you switch to a caretaker role or a mom role, your body knows what to do and shuts off the contractions.
Amazing.
Which is amazing to me. I didn't know that. So we go throughout the day, normal day. I didn't have any other contractions that day. And at that point, I'm getting a little nervous because I'm getting up to, in Florida, where I live, you can only go, I believe it's like 41 weeks and 7 days or 6 days. So I was right at that mark. And so we went the whole day, nothing happened. And then that evening around 10:30, I started having some strong contractions. And I was like, all right, this is it. Again, they weren't as strong as when I was on pitocin, but they were still pretty strong. And so we told my husband, he called our doula, and we went to the birth center around 11 p.m. And I had Madeline at 1:59 a.m. So just a couple hours after that. So my body was ready, knew what to do. But it's interesting because with Madeline, I birthed, or I went through the contractions in the birthing process out of the water. I had no desire to get in the water. I was very comfortable just kind of leaning over the side of, they have like a little day bed at the birth center, and I was just comfortable leaning over that. And that's what helped me. And then right around the transition time, I got in the water, which felt really good to my body, and I birthed her in the water. So it was amazing. Flip-flopped. Colin, I birthed in the water and I had him out of the water. Madeline, I birthed out of the water and had her in the water. So 2 totally different experiences, both super empowering and super magical. And
yeah. Beautiful stories. No, it's interesting because the first time you had pitocin, which gave you huge contractions.
yes,
I know about pitocin. I had my first child also with pitocin.
mm-hmm.
And it's, it's not natural, basically. So being in the water after the pitocin was perfect for you because it's relaxing.
Yes, very soothing.
Yes, it's very soothing. And like you said, it was Madeleine, you felt like the contractions were not that strong, were like really not strong. So you didn't feel like going in the water, which makes sense.
Yeah.
Because if it's very strong, okay, let's get in the water and calm the thing down. If it's not strong, stay outside, because sometimes if you have the woman go in the water, when they're not too strong, they kind of almost stop.
Yeah.
Too much relaxing doesn't work either.
Right.
So you have, you're in touch with your body. You have, that instinct. You're connected to your instinct. which is wonderful. And you trust your, what you feel. You trust what you feel, you trust what you sense. And that's because you trust the process.
Yes.
So did you always trust the process? How did you feel supported in trusting and knowing that you have, the power because you're a
Yeah.
woman, because this is a natural thing, you're not sick, you're doing something absolutely natural that we've been doing for hundreds and thousands of years.
Yes.
So can you tell me a little bit why did you choose trust over fear like a lot of women have,
Yeah. That's a really good question. And I don't know if I fully know the answer to that. Because I, all along I've just kind of assumed or known that birth is a natural process and it's not an illness like I think many US women are raised to believe. I mean, we see it on movies and television shows that your water breaks and you go to the hospital and you have this and it's like just through experiences of life, it's like, oh, you're pregnant, you can't carry that, or you can't bend over and do that. You can't work out, you can't lift weights. And it's like, yeah, our bodies are fully capable of doing everything while we're pregnant. Obviously, there are some times that women need to take it easy, or there's some health risks. But I think each woman has something inside of them that can guide them to do what's right for them. Um, when I was 2 years old, I had a pretty severe surgery. I had a hole in my heart, and I think I still have a little bit of trauma around being in a hospital. So the hospital thing was like, I'm staying far away from hospitals. So I think that also was a guiding factor into a birth center or a home birth, just because hospitals kind of freak me out a little bit. Um, but all along, I just had this magical knowing that birth is what I'm here to do, and it's what my body knows. So I just had that. I think I've just had that inner trusting all along. I'm very thankful for that because I know a lot of other women don't naturally. It doesn't come natural. I did one major thing that really supported me and got me mentally prepared, I think, because as a first time mother and birthing and going in, you don't know what it's like. You have no idea. I was actually thinking earlier today, I'm like, these first time moms, you don't know after you give birth that you have to birth the placenta. Like you're actually birthing two things, but no one tells you that. No one says, oh, by the way, after the baby comes out, you have to birth something else too. So
That's
you
a
just don't
great
know.
point. Thank you for bringing that
Yes.
up. Yes.
Yeah. So I read Ina May Gaskin's well-known midwife, her guide to childbirth. She just has some really empowering stories in there of women giving birth and women who trust their bodies. And so that was really the biggest, me reading that was just that confirmation that, you know what, you can do it. You're here to do it.
Exactly.
So that was the biggest, I think the biggest factor of like my mental support. My husband was also 100% of the time on the same page as me about a home birth. He kind of just trusted my lead, which having that support, I think, was also part of my successful births. And I think those were the two major factors in the success of birthing naturally. for me.
Yes. And you keep progressing, I would say. Now
Yeah.
for your third birth, what's your plan?
Yes. The third birth is a planned home birth. Um, we actually, my two prior births, we were in a rental home because we hadn't been in Florida that long. And so we have our own home now. We have this beautiful, beautiful home that we're going to welcome our third baby into. And I think with the experience that I've had in the past two births, I'm I'm ready.
You are an
Yeah.
expert.
Yes. I don't feel like it, but yes, yes.
Yeah, every birth is different. So it's always
Mm.
like, a surprise. But you definitely went through two amazing experiences, and you quite know a lot. So
Mm.
congratulations,
Thank
congratulations.
you.
And thank you so much for sharing these
Yeah.
powerful experiences. Sometimes you choose to have birth at home and you end up in the hospital for a reason or another one.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes a big difference to choose to start by choosing to have the birth at home, because that's empowering you. If
Mm-hmm.
something happens, it's something that is really happening, and
Yeah.
we know we have the support. We can go to the hospital. So it's not like in the old times where everybody was having their babies at home, but there was no other option. Right now,
Right.
we can have the baby at home and know that if something happens, we can go and have everything we need.
Right.
So that's the big difference between the old days and nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you chose to be at home, that's what empowered you
Yes.
in the first
Yes.
place. So whatever the situation was, you were in your power and you were going to have the most amazing experience.
Yes. Absolutely. And I think that's the biggest message is whatever as a woman that you choose to whatever experience of birth you choose to have is just making sure that you stay in your power because it's very easy and I can say from experience from the hospital situation, it's very easy to be taken out of your power, especially when you have the influence of the nurses and doctors trying to it's what they're trained in and I don't have anything against that, but they try to kind of they're doing what they were taught rather than what you as a what I chose and that was two different um, pathways and so I think as a woman it's okay for you to stand up and choose what you want whether it be a medicated or an unmedicated birth but as long as you stay in your power while you're doing that I think that's the most empowering thing that you can do for yourself.
Exactly. I agree with you. Stay in your power. You
Yes.
make the choices, you make the decisions.
Yes.
And that's one of the also the amazing roles of the doula, because if the doula is present and you feel
Yes.
you're going to lose it,
Mhm.
and you don't know what to say to the doctor or how to handle the situation, the pressure and everything. If
Mhm.
she's present, she's going to support you. She's going to be there for you. And that can bring you back,
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
And having your husband there that is 100% supporting you is also absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm so glad that you giving this message to other women, because like you said the first time, you have no clue.
No idea. Yes, I'm so happy to be able to share my experience with those who need to feel more empowered or just need that
Have
push to
the
know that you
information.
can do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're giving them information, you're sharing your experience. It's a very supportive
Yes.
thing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
You are so
And all the
welcome.
best for the next birth at home. And I'm
Yes.
kind of around, not far from you.
Yes,
So,
yes. I'm so excited.
yes, me too for you. Me too. Thank you so much, Lauren.
You're welcome. All
Okay.
right.
See
We
you.
will be in touch.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
Bye.